My guest today is Tal Rabinowitz. I'm so excited to have Tal here with me. Welcome, Tal.
Thank you. Hello.
And I know that it's Super Bowl right now, so thank you for choosing us over the Super Bowl. That means you're choosing consciousness raising over football. Is that it? Is that right? Okay. And I want to give you a little bit of an overview of why I started Sacred Sundays. And I talked about it the last time, that Sacred Sundays was born out of an idea that I had from having a women's group for several years. I had a group of women that came together like Sacred Sundays once a month. And it was about transformation and consciousness raising. And we came together like in a sacred circle. Even though we didn't sit in an actual circle, it was a sacred gathering of people together. And it was very effective in that we would talk about what we wanted to become, where we were in our evolution, and how our lives can have greater meaning. And what I saw with that is that when you bring a group of people together to have conversations that are about consciousness raising, you really can not only affect change in your own life, but you can take that out into the world. And as much as we can do our own journey of I, our journey of we is so much more effective and so much more powerful. And I think that we could see that by what we witnessed recently with the Women's March downtown, and that our voices together as a group or as a community is so much stronger and so much more powerful than just by a single voice. And even seeing the power of that, was anybody at the Women's March? Yes. And so you know how extraordinary that was, and that to be a part of that collective was, to me, really what it's about. It's about that we need to come together. We need to come together in solidarity, in unity, to really affect change out into the world, and also to see that take place just, at the same time in other parts of the world. So it really makes you realize that a global conversation starts with one, and that it reverberates out into the world. So when I had the women's group, that was a gathering, and that we all can have our gatherings. We can all have the groups that we cultivate together, which is really what I wanted to do with Sacred Sunday, to keep the conversation going about raising consciousness. And right now, with everything that we're experiencing, it's pretty stressful. I talk to a lot of people that feel very concerned and very stressed about just what's going on, and it's making them feel even more connected to the need of wanting to be a part of the change. And what can we do, as opposed to just, basically being passive about something that feels overwhelming and greater than us, that we, again, can be part of the change by recognizing what is our role, what is our purpose in being a part of it. And that leads me to Tal, because Tal has, and I'll give you a little bit of my connection to Tal. She has, for those of you that don't know, that Tal has the Den Meditation Studio. How many of you have been to the Den? It is truly one of the most beautiful meditation studios in Los Angeles. It's on La Brea. I have done a mindfulness series there and taught some meditation classes there, and it's just quite special. And Tal has created her own sacred space by bringing this as a gift to all of us. And meditation is a step towards peace. when we make a decision to meditate, when we make a decision to take time to go within, to take time to connect to our core, to the true essence of who we are, we then can take that out into the world. Meditation is not a way to be passive. Meditation supports being basically a spiritual activist as far as I'm concerned. Because if you take the time to connect and go deeper and find out really who you are, you need to know that before you can actually go out into the world to affect change. So thank you, Tal, for creating this wonderful, sacred space for all of us to bring together community, to bring together people that can come there, beginners and advanced meditators, and create a space where we, again, not to do it alone, but that we do it as a community. So before I jump into asking you some questions, we had a nice conversation before we began. I want to give you a little background on Tal. Tal was an executive VP at NBC and head of comedy development, right? Prior to that, she was at Sony Pictures Television, where she was senior VP of comedy development and digital programming. NBC chairman, little thing from your past, NBC chairman Bob Greenblatt said she was one of the smartest, brightest comedy executives in the business, who was also universally embraced by writers, producers, agents, and talent, and was exactly the kind of creative executive to guide their comedy development as they plotted the future of NBC. During that time, Tal was a meditator. She practiced TM, which we have in common. That was my first beginnings of meditation, was TM, and used to fit 20-minute sessions at work. Yep. But then in 2014, she and NBC parted ways. Fast forward to today, where she is a full-time owner of the Den Meditation Studio, on the cover of Mindful magazine, and the mom of precious baby Levy. So Tal, again, welcome to be our guest here today. Thank you so much. So how about we just jump into some questions, okay? All right, well, let me start with, after you left NBC, what made you decide not to stay in the entertainment business, which you clearly easily could have, and move on to something like opening up the Den Meditation Center?
It's actually a good question. I kind of knew when I was there. I think the last couple of years I was already feeling it in my soul that I was ready for a change and wanting to do something different. So when that time did end, I actually really made a conscious choice when job offers were coming in or meetings were coming up. I actually made a choice to tell people I need minimum 3 or 6 months, no meetings. I would actually say that, because otherwise they don't believe you. And I would get a phone call sometimes 2 weeks later, oh, we thought you were kidding. And I'm like, no, I'm actually taking at least 3 to 6 months off, which was great to take the space. And I had the idea for the Den while I was at NBC, and I just needed some time to actually put it together. And I was tired, to be honest, after I had a crazy career. It was a crazy job. So I took some time to rest, and then I'd say probably 6 to 8 months after my job ended is when I finally started putting the pieces in place to birth the Den. So it actually was more of a combination than a conscious choice. It was like I knew kind of when I was there, I had this idea. I knew it needed to exist. I had a very clear vision of what it had to be. I think it was just a matter of when I felt the energy and I was ready to actually do it.
So why meditation, of all the businesses to start? I know, as you said, you were a meditator. Did that influence your decision?
Yes, very much so. I was meditating in my old job, and frankly, I was looking for a place to go. I was struggling to keep a normal practice going. I think I'm a very average human being, and I feel like it was hard for me. And so I could book out 20 minutes a day, which I did, as you told everyone, but I wanted to do a practice twice a day, and I was just finding my mind wandering, or it was hard when I got home. And I kept saying, if I could just go somewhere in the morning before work, or if I could go somewhere after work, or even during lunch, I would have a much more regular practice. And I kept looking online, and it just didn't exist. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can go kickboxing, I can do Pilates, I can do weight training. I mean, there's everything I can do before work or after work, but yet I can't meditate anywhere. And that, there were places you could go, but they would be like 2.5 hour sits.
Right. Yeah.
And that's when the idea kind of crystallized for me.
And there were no apps then, right? I don't think
There weren't
were
really
any,
apps then either, to
there
be honest.
wasn't.
I'm trying to remember when I put my first app on my phone. I don't think there were apps. I don't want to say there absolutely weren't, but it wasn't as common.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't
it
recall
seems like
either.
a more recent.
Yeah, so it was hard. So there was really nowhere that was accessible or made it easy, and it felt more rarefied. So that's where the idea came, was actually when I was at NBC, and I would talk about it all the time, and I would look all the time online. I'd be like, where is it? And then I spent some time in New York for work, and I was like, oh, New York will for sure have it. And I would end up at the Dharma Center for 2.5 hours. And that's when I'm like, okay, this has to exist. So I took some
Right.
time after work before I had the energy to do it, and then it happened. So it's funny, in hindsight, I'm always like, yeah, who would have done that? Who just chooses to then open up a meditation studio?
Yeah,
But that's
a
very much
really-
me. I kind
yeah.
of just go.
Yeah. And we know, I mean, I was in the business for years myself. It's a stressful business, as we
Yes.
know that it is. And you talked about being tired and stressed. And to continue that, it would seem like the more linear path, just to stay on that trajectory. But sometimes it takes being so stressed and so exhausted to make changes in our life, which you
Yeah.
did for the benefit of other people.
I just knew it was weird. I remember during my time off, I would get phone calls, like voicemails from important people in the business that if I were still working, it would have been my first phone call within 2 minutes. You wouldn't dare not call that person back.
Right.
And all of a sudden I'd be driving 2 weeks later and be like, oh my God, I forgot to call that person back. And that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, you're ready to move on and do something
Yeah,
else.
to
Because the
make a
fact that that
change.
wasn't weighing on me, that wasn't something I felt like I had to do. It was kind of disappearing from like the forefront of my thoughts, is when I knew, like, you're ready to. I don't always say forever. Everyone always says, so you just left it, you're never going back. And I never say never, but I needed a change. I needed to do something for me and for my soul and just change it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we don't wait till we're so pushed to our limit that we have to make these changes. And I think the beauty of creating a meditation studio so that people can come in at any different, because you have classes
All day.
all during the day, and great classes and great workshops going
Thank
on
you.
all day, and that people can come in, get drop in, tune out, drop in, and then go back out there to their jobs, to their relationships, to their whatever their other things that they do in their life, and so that they can have that balance. I talk a lot about balance as a life coach. I see people who don't strike that.
It's like one extreme or the
yeah,
other.
it's one extreme or the other. And by having a studio like that, it really gives people the opportunity to take that opportunity to balance their lives.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because that was actually a huge part of why I did it and the thought that went into it. I always say, I don't want to pretend the real world doesn't exist. I don't want to pretend email doesn't exist, texting doesn't exist, because it does. And I think the only way you find balance is when you learn how to coexist with it, which is why we
Right.
do have Wi-Fi in the studio. We do take your phones. We don't let them go into class. But there is Wi-Fi, and we want people to be able to hang out and relax, but also learn how to coexist in the world and not pretend that it's not there.
Right. Would you say that most of the people, or a good percentage of the people that now come to the Den, are people like you that needed it the most?
It's an interesting mix, actually, who comes. But yes, there's a lot of people who needed it. And I do find people actually check their phones in right when they get there, and they all take a book off the library shelf, or more than I thought they would. I thought more people would kind of be like this until they walked in. But I think people really like the opportunity to have a place to just like detox, detach, de-stress.
Right. Do you find that there are people, or maybe they've shared it with you, that they are now reevaluating their lives and maybe making
Yeah.
decisions because they've committed to meditation?
We just celebrated our year anniversary, which has been amazing because a lot of stories have kind of surfaced, and it's been nice to hear a lot of people say it's just changed their life. It's changed how they've thought about what they want to do, who they are, the decisions they've made. And people always ask what type of people come in, and I say it falls in a different category. Sometimes it's the version of me that really stressed out, works too much, just needs a place to go. Sometimes it's someone who's gone through something, whether it be a death in the family or a breakup or a career change, just something like people are looking for a change and need guidance. And what they realize later is the guidance is themselves, but they have to figure out how to get in touch with that. And I find those are like two kind of main types of people. And so it does change their life, no matter what it is you're looking for. If you're looking for just a little bit of a peace of mind and relaxation, or if you're looking for a bigger change in your life, it's going to give you that.
Why do you think people, I mean, I, like you, I was my first meditation was TM. And I really credit TM as teaching me how to be a disciplined meditator. And sitting myself down for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. And like you, being in the business, I was an actress and it was very stressful. And that's what got me to meditate. So again, it takes you something to make a decision that you know you need to have a more balanced life. Do you find that people now there are more meditators today? Because when I was meditating, when I took up TM, I didn't know any other meditator. And I think it was divine providence that led me to meditation. Do you find that there are more people today that are willing and wanting to meditate?
It's just more in the ether right now. I mean, even when I started, was it 5, 6 years, even then it felt like you mentioned you meditated and people thought you were, it was so strange, right?
A little woo-woo.
And now I just feel like almost everyone that it comes up, people are like, oh, either I've been dying to try or I really need it. I think at least now the good thing is people are equating it to something that's good for them. Right. So it's no longer this weird hippy-dippy thing. It's more like, just like some people say, I should really start jogging again. Like I've been eating, it's been the holidays, I don't feel great, why aren't I exercising? I think people are now starting to equate it with that, which I think is fantastic. It's like, I know I'm stressed, I need to meditate. Or I know I'm tired, I have a lot going on, I need to meditate. So it has become, I think, more quote unquote normal, which I think is great.
Do you find that some of the people that come to the den are open about their, discomfort with meditation? Like maybe they're hard on themselves and maybe they have expectations of what kind of meditator they want to be or feel they need to be.
Yes, especially I think people who are really stressed out tend to be type A, and so they want to be the best meditator possible. We all know that, right? And I actually tell everyone who's come in for the first time who's like that, I say, it's not going to be perfect. Your mind is going to wander. It's going to be hard for you. If you even have a few seconds of just feeling like it quieted down, that is a success, and remember that. And just like to bring it back to exercise, you have to go to the gym a bunch before it feels good. And sometimes that run, no matter how long you run for, sometimes your legs feel like dead weights, and that's just how it is. Not every time you do it is the most perfect experience. So I do try and warn people, because I do think people come in expecting it. You're sitting down and it's going to be bliss and nothing's going to enter your mind and everything,
Which is not realistic.
Which is not realistic.
No, you cannot stop your thoughts. I mean, I talk about that in my book, Says Who. We think between 40 and 70,000 thoughts a day. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So one of the things in meditation is to suddenly think you have to stop thinking is just, I think it's not going to happen. So it's good that they come there not beating themselves up, knowing that it's part of the process.
That's literally what I say, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, which is great. How has your life changed when you made the decision which was really, I think a really powerful decision to say, I'm moving away again from a business that is stressful, but I'm sure you enjoyed being in it while you were in it. Mm-hmm. And now it's really about meditation. It's all about meditation. How has that changed your life?
It's funny. I was just having this conversation. My life has completely changed. I mean, in these years, I have a business in an area I did not work in before. I have a baby. I had actually gone through divorce around that time too. So my life really is a 180 from what it was before. And all it is I'm just more attached to who I am. And I think that's the greatest part about it, is I am doing a business that's actually perfect for me. It combines all the sides of me that I know that I like doing. And I get to, impart something that I can see is affecting people in a great way. And that makes me so happy to know that. I would say the widget I'm producing, because I come from a production world, is a widget that's actually like empowering and making people happy and changing their lives. I mean, that's just so wonderful. And like I said, I have a baby girl who's one of the most amazing things to ever happen to me.
Right, you were telling me about her, and also that you were doing this simultaneously.
Yes.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that, because you shared that with me, which was pretty extraordinary, that you were doing both of those things simultaneously. You were in the process of adopting a baby and creating a baby, which was your business.
I said I had twins.
You had twins. Yeah. That's a perfect way of saying it. I mean, that is really quite a huge undertaking. So how did you transition into that?
I mean, I almost feel like there was no transition. It was just plop. again, like to what you're saying, I think when I made the conscious choice to change my life, it all happened very quickly, and it all just changed, and it changed at once, and I just went with it. And so, we did adopt a baby, so that timing was a lot faster than I thought it would be. So then it coincided exactly with opening up the business, which is not probably ideal or how most people would plan their lives. But what can you do? And you do it. And it's amazing. I mean, I had her there this morning, and I actually, she's now a human being that has opinions. And I pointed to the sign. I said, "You two were raised together." And it's true. It's been fun to watch her, act differently in the space and who she is in this space. So yeah, it was an intense time. I mean, it was intense for sure, but it was also, Ben's heard me say it a million times. I couldn't complain about anything, though. It was all blessings. Like, everything was amazing. It was just a lot.
Right. And you have kids that meditate at the Den, don't you?
We do, and we do a kids series, and it's real. I love when the kids come in.
That's to me really special. I think the whole world should be meditating. I think everybody, every age should be meditating.
It's so
but
cute.
they're our next generation, and meditating is happening in schools now. It's becoming mainstream again, like when you and I were doing it. I was doing it before you. It wasn't at all mainstream. And to see it seep into the mainstream is so incredible. And that the fact that it's going into the school systems. So the new generation, to be able to even go to a meditation studio as a child, that was non-existent for us. And now you're providing that for children.
They're so cute. I remember the first time we did it, I was so nervous that they would be too loud. And because, we have other classes going on. And some of the parents were waiting in the common area, and the parents were being loud. And the kids all came out and were like, shh, shh, and like telling their parents to be quiet and to be respectful. And I thought it was the funniest thing. It was, they're just it's really great to see the kids come in.
Well, it's great because it's cultivating, again, a new generation of meditators. And this is really part of this whole change that we're seeing take place in the world today, which I think is so important. And that's what's going to go out into the rest of the world. And again, providing a space for that is so special. So do you have people that come there that actually get into relationships through meditation?
It's funny. I would say a lot of relationships, not always necessarily, a lot of friendships have formed, which has been really amazing to see. We're all in the world of social, and I see it all the time. People popping up and posting pictures of them. It was recently, there was one of a bunch of 4 guys that never knew each other. And I like that it was 4 guys. Like, how often do male friendships start later in life? And it was 4 guys at a dinner together that all met through the Den. And also my favorite is seeing relationships of people you wouldn't expect together, different ages, from different walks of life. And that's been really incredible. There's been a couple dating relationships I've seen too. But mostly the friendships have been really awesome to watch.
What would you say has been the most challenging part of having the Den so far? You just celebrated your 1-year birthday, so you probably worked out some kinks and probably kind of, learned as you went along, because, it's not an exact science when you open up a business.
No. I guess for me, I knew it, but then really embracing is you can't do it alone, which I knew. It's a lot. So it was the more that you can have people around you that you trust and you think are great, that have the same ideas and spirit that you have, is always helpful.
Right.
I think that was a huge challenge. It's just in growing, just being able to want to be there for the clients in the same way you are from day one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a big learning experience. And also just making people happy. It's a thing in itself, just because you're dealing with different personalities and you want to keep everyone happy. And especially in a place like that, you want people to be feeling the best version of themselves. That's the whole point of it, is to come in and feel better and be who you are. So it's but there's so many elements that go into it just from a pure business standpoint of just customer service that you want to make sure is always happening. And that can be challenging because everyone's different.
Right. So you call your meditators denizens?
Denizens.
Okay. So tell us what a denizen is.
Well, denizen is really one of a community. So it actually was the fact that the word actually existed, and because that's exactly what you are. You're one of a community, and it's very important for us that we are forming a community. And how you opened up today, that just by meditating alone, you're part of a community. You might not realize it. You might not be talking to somebody else, but you are inherently actually putting yourself out into the bigger universe, if that's what you want to call it, whatever you're comfortable saying. So you do become part of a bigger whole.
Right, and I think that the sharing of that commitment of being meditators and really walking the path of mindfulness, so that you can create that together as a community. You're providing that, as you call them, the
The
denizens.
denizens.
Right.
Because we're talking about, Ben's actually leading it for us. We're actually going to be doing like 3 times a year, kind of like community works and community service as the den, because it is important to do exactly that.
Right. It is important to take it, out into the world. It's great to sit on that yoga mat or that meditation pillow for 20 minutes, 45 minutes. I encourage people through my work as a mindfulness meditation teacher to sit, even if it's quietly for 10 minutes a day, to then take it out into the world.
Do you know TM is changing that now? Did you know? That the last time I sat with my TM teacher, because it is 20 minutes morning, 20 minutes night, and they were very strict about it.
Yeah.
And I sat down once and she said, "How have you been?" I'm like, "Sometimes it's 10 minutes. It's been really busy." She goes, "Oh, we've actually told people 10 minutes now is okay," because people were just struggling with 20.
Absolutely.
And it made me laugh. I'm like, good, I'm like, glad you're at least
Well,
being okay
because
with
you
it.
don't want to discourage anybody from meditating. And I do a lot of radio, and when I'm on the radio, I say take 10 minutes. And even if I took the word meditation out of the equation and I said just sit quietly and close your eyes and focus on your breath. Now I say that to people that have never even done that.
That's what I say.
And I say, and guide them through that. And then after just even 5 minutes, I say, and guess what? You were just meditating. And they're like, I was? That's meditation. So I think we really need to demystify meditation. I think we need to have it be open for everybody. And I love that they've now said, okay, it doesn't have to be the 20-minute, although that was very helpful for me.
I know.
Maybe sit myself down and become a meditator.
Yeah.
And it does require the discipline, in that, not in a discipline to be hard on yourself, but discipline in a way that the more you do it, the more you get the benefits out of it. And the more you get those benefits, the more then you can share it with your community and share it out into the world.
Yep.
Do you know? So you said community service. Is that a new thing that you're moving
It's a
into
new thing that we've-
2017?
Exactly.
And how are you moving this concept out into the world with some ideas that you have out of the studio?
Yeah, well, we've actually just been chatting about it. It's, we've thought about, it just feels like everyone, we do a lot of also free classes sometimes, whether we're trying to raise money as donation based. So I think that's where it came out of. It's like all these people are always wanting to do something to help. And it feels like we're a perfect place to actually give them another outlet for that. And we would love to be part of that and be part pushing people into the community to do that. So whether it's, we just chat about Meals on Wheels or anything, whether let's go
Wonderful.
paint for a school one day. I mean, it can really be anything, but it just feels like a chance for us as a community, as a whole, together, give back.
Absolutely. I think you do pay it forward. I think that as much as it's great to have that community, then you're growing a community and then you can grow it outside. Do you have plans for more den meditation studios?
When we do in the spring, hopefully, it's the LA permitting has been lots of fun to deal with, but we do have a place opening up in Studio City. So we're moving to the Valley also, so
Fantastic.
that should be helpful because
Right.
it's really nice. People drive from so far to go, and you want to make it easier on everybody.
Yeah. Now, is this going to be the second of many more to
I
come?
hope so. We'll see. It's kind of been, it takes a life of its own. I think it always does. So
Right.
wherever it goes.
Yeah, I think it's great to populate it around,
Yeah.
and then again, you're going to have more children and more people, and then it's just going to be able to expand that opportunity. Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what is your favorite kind of meditation? I know you were a TMer. What really gets you connected to yourself?
I have to say, I think I do TM to me. I always having my mantra I fall back on a lot. I do find a gratitude practice for me tends to be where I end up going. Even when I'm doing other things, I always find myself in a gratitude practice usually, and that always helps kind of whatever's going on in my life kind of elevate me from any of it and just look at the world a little bit differently. I also like variety. It's part of the reason I open this. I actually really do like the fact that every teacher teaches me a different way of actually looking at it or thinking about it. And so I do find sometimes I create almost my own versions. That's why I say it's a gratitude practice, because I feel like that's what I always end up kind of doing. But I do kind of create almost my own sometimes.
Right.
And it's just very peaceful.
And I know you're also teaching a basic meditation class as well.
We always have once a month actually led by Ben. We do a
Right.
learn to meditate workshop because people do have, like you said, we need to demystify it. There is such a fear about even just sitting in a class where beginners can be. I think people get nervous and they want to ask questions and they don't think they're doing it right. And so this is once a month. It's a chance for people, even if they've already started taking class, usually there's questions and you have your chance to get a few practices that he teaches a few different types of meditation, and also a chance to actually ask him questions. And he kind of answers a lot of the traditional, like, why do I move so much? What's fidgeting? How do you not move so much? How can you embody stillness? How do I control this brain from working so much?
Right.
All of those questions where everyone kind of prevents people from feeling like they're doing it correctly.
Do you find that they are drawn, a lot of the meditators that come to the studio, they're drawn to certain types of meditations more than others?
I think my favorite part about opening this place is everyone is drawn to something different. That was the most surprising thing to me, is people really do, like some people it's very mindfulness based and they just tend to go towards the mindfulness teachers. For some it can be more of like in Buddhism or Zen, or sometimes a little bit quote unquote the woo-woo stuff. I find it's just, everyone really does resonate with something different, and that's the whole point of it.
What do you see changing about the Den if you move into this next year? What's your goal moving forward? What's your greater vision for it?
My greater vision in a perfect world is to have the ability to provide this for people in many places so that it is accessible and demystified and easy. My goal within that, and I can't answer it specifically because part of the goal is amorphous, and the goal is to always have the heartbeat and the soul of what people need and want. So I can't fully answer that because I don't know necessarily what that is yet.
Right.
And I think it's in hoping if we do it successfully, we're always connected to that.
Right.
And that is, I think the spirit of the place is being connected to what people are needing and wanting and bringing to it. And that's why I always say this place is only as good as the people who walk in the door, the teachers and the students alike, because that is what the soul is.
Right.
And so in a perfect world, we grow and the heartbeat changes as the being changes. I just don't know exactly what it is yet. It's part of what makes it
Right.
exciting.
Yeah, it's a part of the unknown. Can you share with us some transformational stories that you've seen in the studio of maybe some of your meditators or your teachers where you've seen them really go through a transformation?
I mean, there's actually one teacher, it's a perfect story actually, that Ben brought to us, who never taught before I think the Den was her first class. And then she then left her actual regular job, probably maybe 5 months into that, started teaching more and doing workshops around town. I think she went through a breakup, found a new boyfriend, and a week ago, I mean, she just moved to Bali. So, I mean, her life completely transformed in a year. And we feel kind of part of that, as if we were part of the family.
Right.
I mean, I've had students that I know have left jobs, a lot of leaving jobs and changing kind of what they need and want. A lot of people going through some darkness, which I mean, it's not necessarily my place to say the story, but
Of
just
course, you don't have to
going
share
through,
the
like, some
particulars, but
difficult stuff. And I know that this has really given some people some solace and peace and knowing it's going to be okay, which is, if we can do that for anybody.
so
that's
they
fantastic.
find it as that meditation gives them solace. It gives them some type of peace of mind that
Yeah.
even if they're going through a difficult time,
It's like an emotional blanket. Sometimes.
right,
It's-
exactly, that they have a place to come to, that they have a practice that they can tend to, that does make them feel more secure.
Yeah,
Do you know that meditation provides that?
exactly.
Do you know, because there are people that also are afraid of meditating. It can be frightening to go within.
We were on KTLA a couple weeks ago, and I actually told the guy, because they do, I don't know if you've ever seen their morning shows, they do quick snippets, and which doesn't quite go with what it's hard to do a 1-minute segment in meditation. And I told him before he goes, like, just so you know, you're not fully going to experience what this is about. It's going to be hard for you, so if you ever really want to experience it, please come back and we can do something for you separate. And he stayed after one of the segments because the teacher just did the class because it was early, and he stayed in before the next segment rolled, and he came out and was like a little shook up, and he told me, he was just like, that was really weird. And I said, well, yeah, because you're not used to it. Like, you're a go, go, go. He's such a type A. I'm like, you're a go, go, go. You've probably never sat with yourself for more than like 2 seconds. So that was
Right.
probably very uncomfortable to sit there
Right.
but it was good. But I go, but that's good. That's like your body telling you something that you need to. And it was actually
Right.
really interesting because it is uncomfortable if you're not used to sitting. Who said it? Someone said it recently, and I thought it was beautiful. It's like if you just sat next to someone on a bench every day, like looking at the water, and you never spoke a word. There's like an unsaid relationship that you're forming. And every day that you did that, it would get deeper and more beautiful. But you're not necessarily talking, you're not necessarily sharing anything, but you're creating this bond and you're getting to know each other in an unspoken way. And that's like a beautiful metaphor for meditation, which is the more you sit with yourself by yourself, the more you get to know yourself and this beautiful relationship forms. But it might feel awkward in the beginning sitting next to this stranger, but the more you do it, it just becomes ritual and it becomes practice. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to look at it.
It is. I mean, that is really the essence of who we are. To take time to be still, to really embrace stillness. That's why I think meditation is so vitally important to handle what we're going through in the world today. With all the chaos and all of the distractions that are out in the world, we need it now more than ever. So finding that comfort, finding that stillness, even if it's taking that first step towards, doing it, trying it, like this man that you're describing, to be able to embrace your own quietude, you realize that it's not that scary after all. And that something perhaps that you've been running away from for so long is something that is available to you.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think a lot of people would not, left to their own devices, maybe not take themselves there, which is why having a place to go to is so important. Do you know?
Agreed. I find sometimes the accountability of showing up somewhere is really helpful in getting a practice going.
Yeah. So how do you think, just with the what's going on now out in the world, I think we would all probably agree that there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of uncertainty. And with meditation as an anchor, as a refuge, as a place to come to, not again, as I said in the beginning, not to escape it, not in a passive kind of way, but to be able to connect to yourself so that you can then take it out. I keep talking about taking it out into the world is the most effective, because I think sometimes there's this notion that if you're spiritual, you don't want to participate in politics, you don't want to be active, you don't want to be proactive, you want to deal with all the craziness that's going on. But on the contrary, I think that the more we get centered, the more we drop into the core of who we are, the more we can really discern between what's real and what's not real. Then we can really recognize it outside of ourselves, and we can go out and really deal with what's going on more effectively. Do you feel that in meditation?
Absolutely. I find, just like you said, it also brings a clarity to yourself. So if you do have a vision, it helps you do it. Also, I think something people aren't talking about, too, is yes, there's chaos, uncertainty. There's also a lot of negativity, no matter what side. There's so much negativity out there, which for me has been almost like stifling. And I do think if through meditation, you can bring a positivity towards it. Doesn't mean you stay with your point of view, you fight for what you believe, you activate on what you want. But I think there's a way to pour love into the problem and focus on what it is, what the problem is, and let the other noise kind of go away so that you can actually activate on what you need to do in a positive way versus get mired in all of the negativity that's flying around it.
And I think also the beauty of meditation is that it teaches you how to be an observer. It teaches you how to be an observer of your own mind as opposed to a reactor. So when you do that, you're not so quick, even though there's so much of this going on right now, you really can have a conversation with somebody who doesn't agree with you and have it be a more mindful conversation.
And try and understand and try and hear and process, and then that only creates more strength in what you believe as well. It's not saying to abandon your thoughts. It's actually to make your thoughts even stronger in who you are, but just know how to come at it in a different way, I think. I think it's very easy for the knee-jerk reaction is to come at them with anger. And I think there's a way that, MLK Day just passing, I found so fascinating because that was a man who approached everything with love and positivity and got a lot done. And I think there's like a huge example to be set through that.
Yeah, I think that now's the time. I don't think it's an accident, really.
I agree.
That everything is culminating in the way that it is.
It's making people active.
It is. It's turned everything seemingly upside down, but as a result of that, it is forcing us to look within.
And pay attention.
Right.
I think it was easy for a lot of, people are paying attention and figuring out, how do I actually feel?
Right. And going, you can't just be looking at the external as just the problem. The problem starts within,
Yep.
you know, and each and every one of us, the more mindful we get, the more clear we get about, you know, our own dark shadow sides of ourselves. Then, and in meditation, you said people even coming in who are going through maybe perhaps a dark night of the soul. Being with yourself, staying connected to who you are, and moving through that through transformation helps you then be able to interact with other human beings. So it's an inside job, and meditation is an inside
It
job.
is an inside job, yeah.
Do you know?
And it's like you said, if you can move through something, you have the ability to help others in a much better way. Because just the empathy you create and the understanding you create just by moving through it and not avoiding it and not evading it is huge.
Maybe we could get Donald Trump to meditate.
Well, that would solve a lot of problems.
Maybe we could get the White House to meditate. Maybe we can get meditation, you know, into these areas that really need it.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think that if we become the representatives of that, if we practice that and we commit to that and we really value it, if we really value what that is about, and then what you do is you start to spread that to other people, and there are people that would not know about it otherwise. So there is a ripple effect happening. You
Huge
know that
ripple
by
effect.
opening the den, you've actually put that in motion. You know that. It is going to be reverberating out into the world.
It's funny because I didn't think about that when I did it, and you've said that, and people said it was just so. It's a beautiful image for me to see. Like, it's nice to know that there's something positive rippling,
Yeah.
which is great.
So tell us, I know that Tal and I are actually going to be traveling together.
are.
We're going to be going to Israel next month with Marianne Williamson. We're very excited about that. And so who's going to be holding down the fort while you're in Israel?
I know. Because of my baby. My nanny's actually going to stay, and my husband will be there as well. And I know I'm very nervous about that.
And what about the den?
That for it. See, I go to home right away because
Well,
that's my guilt of a mom. Welcome to being a mom. You automatically go to guilt of like leaving your child. The den will be. I know that's nerve-wracking too, to be honest. But it's so easy to be connected if you need to be. We do have a great studio manager and district manager, and there's always. I find our teachers are so connected also that I'm actually not worried. I feel like there's a
Right.
beautiful thing happening there. Everyone kind of takes care of each other. If something does go wrong, I know I'll know about it, and I know people will take care of it. But it kind of has a life of its own. That's the beauty of it, to be honest. It really does have a life of its own.
Are we like meditation snobs?
No, I think we're promoting it in a good way.
Yeah, we enthusiasts.
we're
That's
snobs.
right. Ben said enthusiasts. That we are.
Enthusiasts, yes.
You know, that's the thing about meditation. It's like anything that you love so much. It's like you want someone else to try it. You're like, this is so great. You got to try it. Do you know? And I do find myself wanting. I actually just got my husband to meditate.
And how many years married?
24 years married.
See, sometimes it takes a long
It
time.
takes, yes, it does. But you know, the timing was perfect because he was ready for it. Do you know? And it's really true. You don't want to impose. As much as I think meditation is incredible and it changed my life, you know, again, starting with TM, you want everybody to experience that, but they do have to do it at their own time. They have to
Absolutely.
do it when they're ready, do you know? And they'll find their way to it. I found my way to it. I introduced it to him, and I have to say he took to it like a duck to water. It's really fascinating to see, and that's why I talked about transformation. You know, I, in a relatively short period of time, have seen a remarkable transformation. It just goes to show you that, you know, you meditate, and I'm sure you see this a lot with your meditators, you start to see a change in people. You know, they may not see it. They may not see it like right away. It's like they don't look in the mirror and go, do I look different? Because I'm meditating. But you can see it in somebody. I can see it in my husband. And it's...
Do you meditate together now?
We have not done that yet. That's to come. Yeah, that's a really good idea. We should probably have like a stay medication. How about that? A medication. Do you know? I think it's great to meditate together. Because I learned TM on my own, I tend to meditate by myself. I like that sacred time to take by myself, to be in that alone space. I also have meditated in a group, and it's divine. It's all good. It's all a variation on a theme. But I think meditating with your partner, as a matter of fact, I did something at the Den where I did soul gazing, which is like a meditation.
Yeah.
Do you know? Where you're looking
Absolutely.
into each other's eyes. And on my meditation tape, I have a meditation CD that is on all sorts of music outlets, as Ben knows so well. You look really good with that baby.
I mean, it's the cutest thing I've seen. Come on.
That is adorable.
very natural.
You're those out there that will be watching this video don't see what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing Ben hold this absolutely
Adorable.
precious little angel. And that's the thing about babies. They're natural they just come in so blissed. They come in so divine, and that's what we want to return to. That's the state that we want to return back to, which meditation helps you do. Helps you return back to self, to the true essence of who we are, which is this exquisite spirit that I'm looking at, who is, as you said, very alert, very present. Babies are so present, and you know, Tal, you have a baby. They are so present.
So present.
You know, they are so in the moment of now, and we move so far away from that, which is again the beauty of meditation, that we forget how to return back to the moment of now, to present moment awareness. So again, the incredible value of having a place like the Den, which really, again, I said earlier in my introduction of you, it is a gift. It really is. It's offering up a gift to people.
Thank you.
And I really want you to know that that's how I'm sure a lot of people feel.
Oh, thank you. I'm
that,
so glad people feel that way. It's
you know,
a
you
gift to me too.
Yeah, you set out to do it. I don't think you know until something's really up and running and it's really, you know, just taken birth and it has set off and it's become actualized and manifested, which is something you said you had this idea that came to you. And I talk about that a lot with ideas that are in the mind's eye. You know, we hold these ideas in our mind's eye and we have an opportunity to actualize them, which you did. And I talk about that a lot with Says Who, because, you know, it's about thought transformation. And I say that when we hold thoughts in our mind's eye and we support it with the thoughts that believe it to be true, we can manifest it. You had this idea while you were working.
Mm-hmm.
So you had that idea in your mind's eye and you manifested it. So talk a little bit about that as we wrap it up. I want to go more into having the vision and then being, you know, really acting on it.
So it was a very specific vision. I think after that New York trip that I spoke about earlier, I knew exactly how I wanted it to look, how I wanted it to feel. It was very important that it felt easy. It's demystified meditation that anyone could go, any walk of life. You could walk in with your corporate suit if you needed to. You could come with your flip-flops and bathing suit if you were surfing that day. Like, it should be for anybody, and everyone should feel like they can hang out and sit in that living room. And so the feel was very important. So I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. I also know my personality, that once I kind of put my mind to something, it happens very quickly, which is why I think I was tiptoeing a little bit in the beginning. And I finally one day, you know, moved forward as far as getting like my tax ID and some of the business stuff you have to do. I just did the tax ID and I did a trademark, and I know this all sounds boring, but it will wrap up in a much more interesting story. And I did all those things separately. I think I started my trademark 6 months prior and just let it hang out there, which meant I had the name. And then when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to get this going, I'm going to get my tax ID so I can open up my bank account, because once that happens, I'm going to move forward. And then I went on this trip, and I was by myself. We were talking about traveling by ourselves earlier. And I was in the zone, is all I can say. I was meditating like 3-4 times a day. I was just taking care of myself. I've never felt more connected to the universe, to me. I mean, I literally could think something and it would happen 2 seconds later. And so I remember sitting down. I was working on some stuff kind of Den related, and I hadn't yet pulled the trigger, and I meditated on it. I actually said, you know what? I'm going to just stop dilly-dallying and I'm going to ask. And so I did a meditation and I asked, am I wasting my time? This is a huge career change. Should I be doing this? Like, is it going to be worth it, is basically, because it's going to be a lot to do, and it's financially too, there's a big risk on certain things.
It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, so I was like, is it going to be worth it? Should I be doing this? Or am I just getting a thought in my head and getting excited about something? And I had a long meditation, and I just put it out there, expecting no answers. And I kid you not. Like, and again, the tax ID and the trademark are two separate people. They live across the country from each other. Again, I started those processes 6 months apart from each other. I'd say within 2 hours, my lawyer emailed me, hey, congratulations, here's your tax ID. It came through. And I was like, oh, that's a funny coincidence. Half an hour later, the trademark guy goes, here's your trademark. You got it going. And I just sat there floored. And I looked up and just said, got it. And I still, every time I tell this story, I get the chills because I know it's exactly what was supposed to be. And I just said, got it, thanks. And then I never looked back. And that's when, honestly, from that point on, just never looked back. And I think you and I were speaking. I didn't have I mean, of course, I had the nerves you need to have in opening a business, but I never doubted it. Like, I just kept going. And that really was a moment for me where I would almost giggled when that meditation was over. It was this feeling of, I mean, that trip was amazing. I remember paddleboarding and saying, like, a turtle came up by me and just floated with me for a long time. And I just said, God, I'm lucky, out loud. I said, God, I'm lucky. And I'm not joking. As I said that, a boat called Lucky, like, went right by me. Like, it was things like that.
Love
just
that.
kept
Love
happening
that.
the entire time. And it was like, so that was the trip for me that just, I just never looked back after that.
That's so wonderful. And that really, to me, is what that type of, when you're aligned,
You feel it.
when you're aligned, you are aligned up to something that really does guide you to where you want to be. And that's the beauty, because it did come full circle. But what you're describing is, it started in a meditative kind of way. You going within, you going deep, you doing some real soul searching, you know, and getting aligned with the truth of self. So what's interesting is that you created this meditation studio, and how you came about doing it is really the very thing that you created, which is meditating.
And that's what I tell people when people ask. I say, it came because I was looking for it. It wasn't just, everyone's like, how'd you get that business idea? I go, that's not actually how it started. I mean, obviously it's a business, but it started as me wanting it for myself, like me looking for the place that would help me with my meditation practice. Like, and then realizing, well, if I need it, I'm sure other people need it. I can't be the only one who is struggling in the same way. So that's really how it came about. And you're right, actually, the fact that what kind of kicked me in the butt to finally really do it was meditation itself. It was actually funny.
Yeah. Do you know, and that's really how we when we're connected, again, I say that word, it's my favorite word. It's connecting. It's all about connecting. It's connecting to self. It's connecting to, here we are connecting tonight. It's connecting to community. And then again, it's connecting, far reaching, you know, globally. And that's the formula. That, to me, is the formula of what we're experiencing right now. There's no other way to manifest something that really is about truth and about the divine, if you will, whatever that means for you. Do you know, the story that you described was, you know, when you said you were in the zone, well, what is the zone really? Do you know, when we go into that place, what is the zone? We're going into, you know, looking at this beautiful spirit, baby.
Smiling.
We're going into that. We're going into true, pure spirit. That's what it is. That, oh yeah.
She agrees.
She knows.
She agrees.
She's
She knows.
hearing you.
She's
What's
saying, oh,
her
thank
name?
God you guys finally figured
What's
it out.
her name? Sage, right.
It's the right name.
And that's the beauty of all of this. You know, the beauty is that, yes, in meditation, we connect to being. We connect to being who we really are. And by being who we really are, then we can go out and be that in the doing. We can't, you know, if we're not connected to the beingness of who we are, then anything that we do really doesn't hold the true essence of who we are. So again, keeps this whole conversation is coming back to meditation.
Yeah, because I always say sometimes the truth isn't always necessarily what you think you want to hear, but it only makes life better once you actually accept it and know that that's what your actual truth is. And I think that for me was a huge lesson in my life, is actually realizing truth comes in different packages, but it is what it is for you. And once you can accept it, your life gets a whole lot easier.
Right.
And that's hard for some people.
It is. And you know that people, you know, the book that I wrote deals with transforming negative and fear-based thoughts. And I'm asked a lot, like, well, why do people want to stay negative? Like, why do they hold on to their negative thoughts? I don't think people consciously want to stay negative. I don't think people consciously want to be unhappy and miserable. But sometimes that step, going into the unknown, which, even something that's unfamiliar like meditation,
Scary.
is scary. And taking that step and talking about, when people hear, about the benefits of meditating and the benefits of what you access in yourself. And I always try to be sensitive to someone who hasn't had that experience, but they want it.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to know, what does that feel like? What does that look like?
You'll
So
figure it out.
on that note, I think we're going to close the conversation, and we're going to move into a meditation. How
Great.
about that? We'll move into a meditation of connecting. So, did you put some music? What I'm going to do? I'm going to do a pull it from the ether meditation. I'm just gonna let it come through me. It's just a meditation of being present. So I guess it would be a form of mindfulness meditation of being present. Yeah. And it's a discover who you are meditation. That's what I invite you to do.
It's like the theme of the night.
Yeah. So let's close our eyes and allow ourselves to be present in the moment of now, to be here in this room together. Feel yourself here in your body. Connect to your breath. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Take another deep breath in and let it go. Allow yourself to be in this moment that you are in, which is the moment you are most alive in, the moment of now. Feel yourself connect to the place within you that feels like home, to your soul and to your heart. Come back to your true essence, to your authentic self that is with you at all times. Breathe in to you. Taking a moment to feel yourself so present in your body. Giving yourself permission to just be you. The purest, truest essence of you. If a thought comes into your mind, simply observe it. Think of it like a cloud in the sky, as they never stay in the same place again. Moving in and moving out like a breath. You are here. You are in this moment of true bliss, of the knowing of who is divine. Feel yourself in your body and at your own pace. When you're ready, open your eyes. Thank Tal again for being my guest and all of you for coming. And I want to also tell you that my next Sacred Sunday will be, well, let's give a round of applause to Tal though. Before I get into that.